All right. What's up? What's up? What's up? Today we have Shania, and Shania is going to take and talk about some wonderful things. And so we're going to see if Shania can go ahead and talk about black dating. And so I have some questions for Shania to answer. Shania, are you here today?
I sure am. Thanks so much for having me on the show. I'm Shania, and I'm here to chat with you all about Black dating and answer any of those interesting questions you've got. So let's dive in and have some fun with it.
Okay, Shania, what's the first question?
All right, let's jump right in. The first question we have on deck is, are Black women approachable? So let's dive into that one and explore it together.
Okay, are they approachable?
Absolutely. Let's talk about it. So, in a nutshell, yes, many Black women are approachable. Like with anyone else, it really comes down to the individual and the context. It's not so much about a blanket statement, but about approaching people with respect and genuine interest. So, in short, yes, Black women are definitely approachable. Just treat them as individuals, and you'll find a whole range of openness out there.
All right. Can you read question number two?
Absolutely. So, question number two is the average Black man good enough for a Black woman? And we can dive into that one next.
All right. So can you answer that one?
Of course. So, for that question, it really comes down to seeing people as individuals rather than a single standard. The idea of whether the average Black man is good enough for a Black woman is really about individual compatibility, mutual respect, and shared values. So, yes, it's not about averages. It's really about how two people connect and whether they're right for each other. So, in short, it's about the person, not the stereotype.
All right. Can you read question number three?
Absolutely. So, but question number three is, are Black men intimidated by Black women? And we can dive into that one next if you like.
Yes, go ahead. Dive in.
Absolutely. So, let's dive into that one. The idea of whether Black men are intimidated by Black women can really vary from person to person. Some might feel that way due to societal stereotypes or personal experiences, but many others do not. Ultimately, it's really about the dynamic between individuals rather than a one size fits all answer. So, it's all about the individual connection and not just a broad generalization.
Well, I went to Walmart and I was standing by the door. There was not a greeter there, so I pretended to be like the greeter at the Walmart. So an Asian woman came up to the door and I opened it for her and she gave me a big smile and said, "Thank you very much." And I said, "You're welcome." And I said, "Welcome to Walmart." Okay, then a Mexican girl came in and I opened the door for her. And she said, Buenos dias and muy bien, gracias. And she was all happy. And then she went into the store. Then a woman came up and I opened the door for the black woman, and she scowled at me and rolled her eyes and told me, "I didn't tell you to open up the damn door." And then she yanked the door handle away from me and walked in and cursed me out. And so I felt kind of intimidated by that black woman. Can you tell me why I felt intimidated?
Well, it sounds like that particular experience just came down to that individual person's reaction, which can happen with anyone regardless of background. Sometimes people just have a bad day or they react in a certain way that has more to do with them than with you. So you might have felt intimidated because of that one off reaction, but it definitely doesn't mean that all Black women would respond that way. It's just a reminder that everyone's different, and sometimes it's just about that one individual moment.
Okay, well, you know what? I tried it again. I tried it again for the second black woman, and the same thing happened to me again. She rolled her eyes at me and told me to get away from her and called me the N word. So that was two times. Do you think that's a coincidence?
Well, I'm sorry you had those experiences. It's definitely tough when you have a couple of negative reactions in a row. That can understandably feel like a pattern, but it's important to remember that it could still be a coincidence and not necessarily representative of everyone. People have different moods, different backgrounds, and you might have just encountered two individuals who reacted similarly. It's definitely not a reflection on you, and it doesn't mean that all Black women would respond that way. It's just a reminder that everyone is unique, and sometimes you just run into a couple of tough moments.
All right, can you read question number 4?
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next one. So, question number 4 is, how does upbringing determine who you date? And we can definitely dive into that one next.
Okay, go ahead and dive in.
Absolutely. So let's dive in. Upbringing can definitely play a role in who you date because it shapes your values, your cultural background, and even the kind of relationships you've seen modeled around you. For example, if you grew up in a household that emphasized certain cultural traditions or certain values, you might find yourself drawn to partners who share that background or those values. But of course, it's not the only factor. Personal experiences and individual preferences matter a lot too. So, upbringing is definitely one piece of the puzzle in shaping who you might be attracted to or feel comfortable with.
Okay, my dad was black and my mom was white, and I tend to date white girls. Is that good or bad?
Well, honestly, it's not really about good or bad. It's more about what feels right for you. If you find yourself drawn to certain people because of your background or just your personal preferences, that's perfectly okay. Everyone's dating choices are personal, and it's really about being with someone who respects you and makes you happy. So if that's what works for you, then that's absolutely fine.
Okay, can you read the next question?
Of course. Let's move on to the next one. The next question we have is, what is a yellow or red bone woman? So we can dive into that topic next if you like.
Yes, I would. Go ahead. Tell me what a yellow or red bone woman is.
Absolutely. So the terms yellow or red bone are often used in some communities to refer to lighter skinned Black women or women of mixed African descent who have a lighter complexion. It's a form of colorism related slang that highlights differences in skin tone. Of course, it's important to note that these terms can be sensitive or carry certain cultural connotations, so they should be used thoughtfully. But in a nutshell, that's what those terms mean.
Do yellow and red bone girls think that they're better than naturally black girls?
Well, it really depends on the individual. Some people might have different attitudes based on their personal experiences, but it's not a universal rule at all. The idea that one group might think they're better really comes from historical issues of colorism and societal biases. But in reality, everyone is unique and attitudes vary widely from person to person. It's always best to see people as individuals rather than assuming they have a certain attitude because of their skin tone.
All right, can you read the next question?
Of course. Let's move on to the next one. The next question we have is, are Black women upset to see a Black man date outside his race? And we can dive into that one next.
Okay, go ahead and dive in.
Absolutely. So let's dive into that. The answer really varies from person to person. Some Black women might feel a certain way due to personal experiences or cultural reasons, while others are completely unbothered by it. It really depends on the individual and their perspective. In general, people have a wide range of feelings about interracial dating, and it's not one size fits all. So it really comes down to individual attitudes rather than a universal reaction.
Well, I brought a white girl to the prom, and all the black sisters, they were looking at me and making all kind of mean faces. Why did they make mean faces at me and say bad things about me and my white date at the prom?
I'm sorry you had to go through that. Sometimes people do react negatively because of their own personal biases or cultural expectations. In some communities, there can be a lot of sensitivity around dating outside of your race, and that can lead to those kinds of reactions. But it's really more about their perspectives than anything you did wrong. At the end of the day, it's important to do what feels right for you and to be with someone who makes you happy, regardless of what others might say.
I took my white girl out to the mall and somebody threw an egg at me. Was that bad that they threw an egg at me because I'm a black man and I was dating a white woman?
I'm really sorry that happened to you. That's definitely not okay, and it's unfortunate that you experienced that kind of hostility. It's really not about anything you did wrong. Unfortunately, some people have prejudices or negative attitudes that lead them to act out in hurtful ways. It's absolutely not justified, and it's really about their own biases. You deserve to be with whoever makes you happy without facing that kind of negativity.
In our past, did black boys or black men get lynched and killed because they whistled or touched a white woman?
Yes, tragically, that did happen in history. During the era of Jim Crow and even beyond, there were horrific instances where Black men were lynched or killed based on accusations of interacting with white women, sometimes even just for something as simple as a perceived look or whistle. One of the most well known cases is Emmett Till, a Black teenager who was brutally murdered in 1955 after being accused of offending a white woman. These acts of violence were part of the brutal history of racial injustice in the United States. It's a painful part of the past, but it's important to acknowledge it and remember it so we can understand the context and the history behind these issues.
Oh, that was terrible. Okay, so are you a real, oh, go ahead and read number 7.
Absolutely. Let's move on to the next one. So the next question we have is, are you a real Black man if you marry a white woman? And we can dive into that topic next.
Okay, go ahead.
Absolutely. So diving into that one, the idea of whether someone is a real Black man based on who they marry is really more about social perceptions than any kind of reality. Your identity as a Black man isn't defined by who you marry. It's about your lived experience, your cultural background, and who you are as a person. Marrying someone of a different race doesn't make you any less real in terms of your identity. So the bottom line is you're just as real and authentic no matter who you choose to love.
Can you list some of the famous black men that have white wives?
Sure. There are quite a few well-known Black men who have married white women. For example, you have people like the legendary musician Jimi Hendrix, the actor Sidney Poitier, and in more recent times, Jordan Peele, the director and comedian. There's also the tennis star Serena Williams' husband, Alexis Ohanian, who is white, and that's kind of the reverse scenario. But the point is, there are plenty of well-known figures in interracial marriages, and it's something that's become quite common and accepted over time.
What color is Janet Jackson's husband?
Janet Jackson's most recent husband, Wissam Omana, is Qatari, so he is of Middle Eastern descent. That means he wouldn't be considered white. He's from the Gulf region. So it's a different kind of interracial or intercultural marriage, but not in the black white category.
Is it true that successful black men and women have a white spouse?
Well, it's not necessarily a rule, but it is something that people have noticed as a trend in some cases. There are certainly successful Black men and women who have white spouses, but there are also plenty who have Black spouses or spouses of other ethnicities. It's really a personal choice and varies widely. So while you might see it in some high profile cases, it's not a universal pattern. It just depends on the individual and their circumstances.
Is there any famous white women that have a black husband?
Absolutely. There are definitely some well-known white women who have Black husbands. For example, actress and comedian Chelsea Handler has dated Black men, and actress Tamara Mowry, who is biracial herself, is married to Adam Housley, who is white. In the reverse direction, you have someone like Kim Kardashian, who was married to Kanye West. So there are definitely famous interracial couples in both directions, and it's something that's pretty common on the public eye.
All right, can you read the next question?
Of course. Let's move on to the next one. The next question we have is it okay for Blacks to date non-Christians? And we can dive into that if you like.
Go ahead and dive into that one.
Absolutely. So when it comes to dating someone who isn't a Christian, it really just depends on personal beliefs and values. If both people are respectful of each other's faiths or beliefs and can find common ground, then it's perfectly okay. It's really about mutual understanding and how well you connect as individuals. So as long as both people are comfortable and respectful, there's no reason it can't work out.
You know, I was trying to date a pretty Jewish girl and a pretty girl from India. and both parents came up to me and told me not to date their daughters. Why is that?
I'm sorry you had that experience. Sometimes people's parents have their own cultural or religious expectations, and they may feel strongly about their children dating within their own faith or cultural group. It's really more about their personal beliefs and traditions rather than anything about you personally. It can be challenging, but it's a reminder that sometimes people have different perspectives based on their upbringing. It's not necessarily a reflection of you, it's more about their own values and comfort zones.
Well, my black sister is Jewish. And so I told the Jewish parents that my sister's Jewish, but they still didn't want me to take and date their daughter. Why is that?
It sounds like even with that connection, they might have had their own specific expectations or concerns. Sometimes families have their own views about cultural or religious continuity, or they may have other personal reasons that aren't immediately obvious. It can be frustrating, but often these things come down to deeply held beliefs or traditions within a family. It's really more about their perspective and not a reflection on you or your sister.
Well, I married a Mexican American. She's Catholic and I'm Catholic. So when I go to church, nobody wants to sit next to me because most of the congregation are Mexican, and they don't want to sit near me even though I'm Catholic. Why is that?
I'm really sorry you've been experiencing that. It's unfortunate that sometimes, even within the same faith community, people can still hold on to cultural or racial biases. It might just be unfamiliarity or discomfort on their part, but it's definitely not a reflection of your worth or your right to be there. It,
Are you there?
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice.
Uh-oh. Well, it stopped, folks. So we'll go ahead and stop at question number 8. I did try to take and have a show here and all, but the the AI stopped on me. So I did have some more questions, and we're just gonna have to go ahead and just stop it right there. I hope you enjoyed the show. I hope you learned a little bit, and we'll see you on another edition of What's Up? What's Up?